The recording.
All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this week's Tipple's virtual wine tasting. This is Elizabeth and Jeff Audrey from Tipple's Brews and Wines, Gainesville, Florida. Let's drink some wine.
Okay.
All right.
I was wondering if you were trying out like a new tagline.
A new tagline? That is it. Let's drink some wine. How about that? I put a lot of thought into that.
Yeah. I would like to drink some wine.
Okay.
For me.
This week we are drinking the Zenato Ripassa. And this is not just a delicious wine, a unique winemaking region. We'll talk about why.
Okay.
And some grapes that you will not have had. So this should be a fun one. All right. If you would do me a favor and pull up slide number 1.
Absolutely.
All right. So this week, the Zenato Ripassa from Veneto, Italy. It's a lot of Italian words there, right? But we'll pull it apart. Great ratings on this guy. James Suckling 93, Wine Spectator 92. So no slouch on the rating scale there. Food pairings on this one: mushroom ragu, grilled boar sausage, braised short ribs, or grilled eggplant with gorgonzola. Yes, please, to any of them.
All of them sound really good.
Oh, that's pretty. All right. And go ahead and stop.
Okay.
So, sharing, please. Thank you. All right. So this is a red blend on this guy. It's not just one grape. Now, true to form, a lot of the description, because it's in an old world country, is going to be the region it comes from, right? They're not going to list the grapes readily, but we'll dissect all that. So a red blend of the grapes are Corvina, Rondinella, and Ossoleta.
Okay, so I don't know any of those.
I told you on the way in, right?
I thought maybe there would be like one I didn't recognize, but I wasn't prepared for 3.
Right. So this is from Valpolicella. This is from the same region, though, and this name you will recognize. Same region as Amarone wine.
Oh, definitely recognize.
Right. So in fact, it's related to Amarone.
Oh, okay.
So
All 3 grapes?
all 3 are the exact same grapes used in Amarone.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
So, and we'll talk about Amarone. Actually, that you can't discuss this wine without talking about Amarone. So we will get into both of those. But first, we'll get into what we're smelling, tasting, and a few specific details, and then we'll get into the background, right? Alcohol content, 14.5% this week.
All right. So we already have some tasting notes.
Oh, nice.
From Robin and Chris: currant, star anise, and some brown sugar.
Brown sugar. Oh, that's a fun one. I like it. I'd go a little smoky on the nose as well. Smoky and graphite. So high mineral content. A lot of high mineral content wines tend to be in volcanic areas.
Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
right. Volcanic. So that will be the case again this week. All right. Ageability is what we talk about next, right?
Right. So we've got 14.5% alcohol.
Right.
We have acid content.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I definitely feel tannins. They're not biting me, but they're, I would say, like mildly there for me at least.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah, I would go medium tannin.
Okay.
Medium high, medium plus on acidity, and plenty of alcohol. So, and to me, I'm not saying, because ours wine's been open about 30 minutes. I think it's drinking fine. So this is one that is kind of in that same grouping that we had last week's too, which is made to be consumed young, though it's not that young. This is 2018. That is current vintage, right? So it's 4 years in the bottle.
Almost 5, right?
Anyway, right. So they hold it back a little bit. And so ready to be consumed now, and will hang out for good 10 years.
Okay.
So that's what I'm not a 20-year guy, but
10 years is a decent.
it's a good amount of time. Yeah.
Hang out. So we also have from Jerry dark fruit.
Dark fruits. I like that. Yeah, they had a description in there. They didn't say just blackberries. They said, what was the things like compote blackberries of just that intense darkness, which is an interesting juxtaposition, right? Because we've got some very dark fruit, but some very bright red acid on the fruit, right? So almost a cranberry with those deep blackberry compote. So it's a tale of 2 sides on these guys.
Yeah.
Right.
exactly. And I don't know if you saw like Kristen Robbins' comment that the brown sugar is on the back end
Mm.
and then star anise is on the front end of it.
Mm. Yeah. Definitely, chocolatey. Have we gone there yet? Like a baker's chocolate?
Yeah.
I can go there a little chocolatey, more on the palate than the nose for me. Because I would take the smokiness I had on the nose, I would take away on the palate, but I would add a little bit of like a baker's chocolate to go in there. Along with a great pepperiness, baking spices, anise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's a spicy meatball, right? It's true to form with Italian wines. They tend to be spicy. It's true.
Okay, I'm just thinking, there has to be some kind of dab thing that happens during the tasting.
Oh, always.
Yes.
I'm going to be me.
Yeah, well,
Jeff's going to Jeff.
oh, gosh. Okay.
So anyway, all right. So there's some great wine notes to get us started. Anything else you guys want to throw in as we move forward? Feel free. So
Or now.
So next thing, I'm going to move on to the wine label review.
Okay.
All right. So this is the part where we pretend that you're in a store that is not Tipple's.
Imagine you're out of town.
That's right. And so you don't have these people that are coming around and they're happy. They know their product and they're happy to help you, right? It's like most stores where you just wander around and you want to grab something. So let's say you're there, you want to grab something Italian. So that's brought you into the Italian section. You get here and I will say, Ripassa is the big word on there. Now, if you don't know what a Ripassa or Ripasso is, that's going to be a little hard.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Valpolicella, you just look at that again, you say, okay. Once again, you kind of need to know where that is, but it's a very old world label, right? It's very much the way they label. So it's very well labeled for the old world. And there's actually a lot I can tell you about this, but I can tell you about this. It's one of those that does kind of need some interpretation and help if you really want to understand it more thoroughly.
So you're a lay person walking in to a shop with no help. Right.
You get there and you're going to see, well, that's Italian in red, right? You can pick that up.
Yes.
You get on the back. They've got the restatement, Zenato Ripassa, Valpolicella, product of Italy. And yeah, so it could use like, it tells me a lot, but it could use explanation. So this is one of those wines, not uncommon for old world wines, right? So Italy, France, Spain, that could use someone to help explain exactly what's going on. So Ripassa is the winemaking style of this wine.
Okay. Are you going to explain what that is in subsequent
slides? In the other slides, we're going to go into exactly what that is.
Okay.
Right. So Ripassa is the winemaking style. Valpolicella is the location. Superiore is the aging.
Okay.
So
that's when I saw that Superiore, I was like, I wonder if that means anything or if it's kind of like Reserva.
Right.
I don't know. Right.
And it could, but in this specific region, Superiore does mean that.
Okay.
And it means what in other areas they might call a Reserva. It has to do with how long you age it.
Okay. But it actually has like a it means something, not just marketing. It's
not just marketing. That one in this case does mean something. So to me, each of one of those tells me something about this wine, which we will cover.
Okay.
So I will say what I'm going to leave with this is it's a perfectly fine label. It's an old world appropriate label. For the layperson, you're going to have a few questions, and that's reasonable.
Sure.
So
okay.
It's very attractive. All right. Yes. So Valpolicella red grapes. All right. So we're talking about Corvina, Corvinone, Rodinella, and Ossoletta, right? So in this case, the one that we do not have is Corvinone. That is not required to be part of the mix.
Okay.
The Corvina is required.
Okay.
And the Rodinella is required.
Okay.
Up to 15% Rodinella in the area. So they do have some that are required to be in the blend. The others can be used as desired, right? So with these grapes from this region, they tend to be higher in acid and thick skinned. So you get lots of color, you get lots of spice. Interestingly, even though they're thick skinned, they're not terribly big tannin producers.
Well, it's just no, clearly not.
Right.
No.
And this is actually intensified.
Oh.
Which we'll talk about that because that is the process
of the way. Okay, that's what I was just going to
which is coming up. So I know I keep sounding like I'm teasing it, but honestly, it's coming.
All right.
So All right, so wide variety of grapes grown in here and wide variety of styles. So they have these main grapes, but they actually make them with multiple 5 different styles,
Oh, wow.
but all with the same grapes.
Okay,
Like now blends of a little more this percent, that percent within it, but the same grapes.
but you're getting very different expressions.
Very
because of the
different
styles.
expressions, right?
Okay.
So if you get something just called Valpolicella,
Mhm.
red,
Mhm.
if the youngest of them, there's a young version where they literally don't oak it at all. And it ends
Okay.
up being a light, you almost want to put a light chill on it, a light fair red,
Okay,
right? And then,
I mean, we have a light chill on it.
yeah, we do. Well, we
Okay.
brought it down to cellar temperature,
Okay.
right? Yeah, it's around 60 and
Mhm.
it'll warm up. Anyway, actually, I think I've got a visual that'll help. with
Okay,
this.
you would like for me to advance?
Please.
All right.
All right, so here we are. So Valpolicella Classico,
Oops, sorry.
that's right.
I was trying to move that.
At the bottom of it is kind of the one that is minimally aged or not aged on oak at all, usually no oak at all,
Mhm.
and fairly young, nice and fresh, very tart and red, really good for pork and that kind of a thing. Valpolicella Classico Superiore is an aging thing. So that means at least a year aged, and usually on oak, doesn't have to be an oak, but aged a year.
Okay,
So going up, you got a little more work going on in there, a little more expense because of the oak aging, most of, or that reserve time costs money, right?
mhm.
So then you go up to the Ripassa, which is where we are tonight.
Okay, but we're Ripasso Superiore,
Mhm.
so,
So Ripasso doesn't have to be aged. This
Okay.
this is a Ripasso that was also aged.
okay.
But they keep
okay,
them in the same zone
Okay,
in that case. And then you go to Amarone, right? Which for the dry wines in this area is the apex. And then the last one is the Recioto
mhm.
is a dessert wine.
Okay,
Same grapes,
okay.
but they ferment it not dry, but it's
Okay.
very
It's
thick
kind
and
of like a
rich.
port?
It's like a port.
Okay,
It's a dessert wine.
all right. And what about the DOC? I know you've explained those
Right.
before, but I
So
don't remember.
DOC means it's guaranteeing that it's from this area.
Okay,
All right. And then DOCG is
Mm-hmm.
it's from this area and there's a certain level of quality
Okay.
associated, a step above on the quality.
okay,
So, yeah.
okay. Yeah, I love how they have the food pairings on there. Look, have this one with pizza and
Mhm.
pasta and have this one with burgers and then steak and yeah, that's very cool. Advance.
That's a great one. Yeah, please.
Okay.
All right. So the appassimento method. So I keep talking about Amarone,
Mhm.
Ripassa. This area is a very unique area. They are the only ones that do this as a regular thing in the world. Like some people may imitate them for fun,
Mhm.
but the only region in the world that does this is them. Appassimento means they dry the grapes.
Okay.
So they take the grapes and they will spread them out on those trays
Mhm.
and let them dry and raisinate.
I was just gonna ask, is it like raisin?
It's yeah,
Okay.
they raisinate them for 3 to 4 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So at that time, they will crush them. They lose 40 to 50% of the water content of the grape. So that is to make Amarone, the top
Okay.
of the list, right?
Okay.
So the lower ones, they don't dry them at all, right? So the
Okay.
lower ones are just a dry wine made with these grapes.
Okay.
And then you come up to the aging one, which is the Superiore, and then you get up to Ripassa. What is Ripassa? So I said Amarone is at the top with the dried
Right.
grapes. Ripassa is they make the dry one without raisinating.
Okay.
And then they take the leftover skins and richness after they made an Amarone, and they put that into the tank with it and let it ferment a second time.
Okay.
So it's repassing over those same skins.
Okay.
That's where the name comes from.
Oh,
It's
it's
Ripassa,
repassing.
it's
Okay.
repassing over.
That's cool.
Yeah. So this is baby Amarone. And that's why we're getting, because of the Amarone side, because you're raisinating, you get those big, dry, dark, fruit expressions.
Mhm.
You've got that. At the same time, we had bright cranberry. Like,
Right.
how is this possible?
Right.
Well, because you had the dry wine with the young grapes, and then you had the raisinated grapes mixed in with them for a second fermentation, and then they bring it out for Ripassa.
Okay.
So Amarone, all raisinated grapes.
Right.
Ripasso blended with the leftover skins and everything and the additional sugars left over from that. So the alcohol tends to go up too.
Yeah.
So with the youngest ones, because these grapes tend to be a little lower in sugar,
Mhm.
which is the reason they created this way to condense everything and get more richness out of it. So when you raisinate them, you get more sugar, You get more tannin, you get more color, you know, so that's why that Amarone is at the top. And why they take the longest on oak, because now you've got a much more intense
Sure.
wine that needs some time to relax.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you go to the next one, we will show you. Here we go.
Ah, there they are. It does just look like a pile of raisins. Almost.
There you go.
Mhm. So then at this point, that's when they crush them to make the Amarone.
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
very cool.
And you see and you can see why they're giving up all that juice, you know, the water content.
Right.
So that's why Amarone is expensive.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's not filled with water. It's very concentrated then. Yeah.
Right. All right. Next
Ready?
one, please. All right, Ripassa method, which is exactly what I just talked about. Unique to Valpolicella. You grab the dried grape skins from the Amarone, put them in the fermentation, and then they leave them in contact for 10 to 12 days to get the richness left over from there.
That pomace. Okay, that's the leftover.
That's the name for
skins
the
and-
leftover
okay.
skins. Yeah.
Okay.
Next one, please. All right, and grape anatomy. All right, on these guys. So we have thick skinned, which usually creates a grape that has high tannin content.
Right.
In this case, that is just not part of the character of these grapes. They tend to be high acid, but they do get a lot of flavor out of that because of those thicker skins. But
Just not the tannins.
yeah. And then as that became more and more popular, which it was a technique they used, then they lost it and they stopped making it that way.
Oh,
And they rediscovered it in the 1950s. And it really didn't take off again, though, until the 80s or 90s when it was discovered by the world. And that was very much when people were getting into drier wines and they wanted to figure out how do we make a big, dry, rich wine from this area? And, this appassimento method was how they could accommodate the world.
before then, people were into sweeter wines.
Oh, yeah, historically,
Okay.
so we'll talk about when they started making wines here, but they've been making wines here for thousands of years, so, yeah. All right, next one, please.
I was just looking at this picture thinking, this is a plump, full grape. It'd be interesting to see how those zones change if we had a cross section of a raisinated grape.
It is interesting, would it be consistent in proportion?
Right.
Would everything be 40% thinner?
Right.
Or would the peripheral zone shrink first?
That's
That
what
kind of a
I'm
thing.
wondering, right? And then we do have a chat comment.
Okay,
It says, let's see, so Montreal, I was thinking fruit a little more on the red side rather than dark, definitely getting a little smoky.
nice.
Must be the bright cranberry you mentioned.
Oh, there we go.
Mhm.
Yep,
And I don't think
I like it, man, that smoky is still there, which I
Yeah.
totally like.
Okay, you want me to advance?
Yes, please.
All right, here
All
we
right,
go.
where in the world are we? All right, so here we are in northern Italy, so just above the midpoint of the northern growing latitude. And we're up here in Veneto, this green area,
Mhm.
and yeah, Italy is like Spain when you look at it and say,
It's the
you
whole
can, the
country.
whole country grows wine, the whole country. All right, so within Veneto, a little closer look to northern Italy,
Mhm.
you can see the Alps,
Mhm.
and we're in Veneto, we're inland right around here in the foothills of the Alps.
Okay.
Here's where most of the Pinot Grigio comes from. All right, so and Prosecco right here. All right, so that's kind of here's Venice.
Mhm.
So Veneto as a region as a whole, it's called Veneto after
Mhm.
Venice.
Okay.
All right, so they're in the foothills of the Alps. Most of the vineyards are terraced because of all the terrain going up and down. You can see a little bit of it in here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but they've got, to where you can see that it's definitely hilly.
Mhm.
And beyond hilly for Floridians, we would call it mountains. So the name Valpolicella comes from Valpolis Celle, which means Valley of the Many Cellars.
Oh, okay.
So if they're going to name it that, I'm pretty sure they've been making wine there a while.
Absolutely.
Name was adopted in the 1100s,
Mhm.
but they've been making wine there since the Greeks.
Oh, wow.
About 1,800 feet above sea level. And volcanic soil, remember we talked about that, but that mineral, that smoky, that graphite, we're talking about volcanic soil, low in organic matter, high in minerality, which give these vines, these grapes character as they stay on the vine.
Yeah, perfect for
So,
grapevines.
They won't over ripen, they'll struggle, they'll grow slowly
Mhm.
because of that lack of organic matter. But as they do that and they're pulling out those minerals from the soil, then you get this wonderful character from the
And
grapes.
I don't think we've mentioned that in a while, that really grapevines, you can't have them in nutrient-rich soil. They have to struggle. Or
You won't get the same quality, right?
Mhm.
If they're in nutrient-rich soil, the grapevines get lazy, and they're not interested in producing as many grapes. They're interested in growing, and you've got to convince them that there's a threat
Okay.
to their survival, so that they will put the effort into making better grapes because they're trying to reproduce and move on to a new area. Hey, birds, come eat my grapes and spread over to someplace that can have some nutrition in the soil, please.
And when you say it like that, it makes me feel really badly for the grapevines. They're just trying so hard.
That's right.
Okay.
It's
ready?
like the first episode of Star Trek Next Generation. All right. Some people will get it.
That's just for you.
Some
babe.
people,
That's
if you know it,
just
then
for
you know it.
Would you
All
like
right.
to advance?
Yes. All right, so let's take a look. So here are those
terrace.
terrace vineyards, and you can see they do have, they do have some valley warmer growth areas, though most of what they choose to do is on hillsides to get the sun, because they do get a lot of chilly weather out of the Alps.
Okay, that makes sense.
Next one. There it is again.
It's gorgeous.
Just gorgeous
It's
area.
gorgeous.
I would very much like to be there.
Mhm.
Let's see here.
And this is the actual vineyard that we're,
It's the next one. The next one is.
okay.
And it looks the same.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
there you go. Here's Zenato.
Mhm.
Not too shabby there. All right. So Zenato was founded by Sergio Zenato in 1960,
Mhm.
and his family run to this day.
Oh, wow.
Which I know we love that, right?
Yes, we
It's
do.
always fans of that. So Chris called me.
Yeah. Yes, and then Jerry said many plants must be stressed to produce good flowers and or fruit.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's good to know. Rob, if you want to stress, I also get plants and flowers. Chris, what did you do? All right. So
That could have been Chris that typed that.
oh, good. Oh, well, then what's Robin do?
I don't know.
Just to bring him flowers. All right. So let's go to the next one. We'll take a look at, there's the family. All right. So now it's being run by Sergio's wife, Carla, and his children, Alberto and Nadia.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
I didn't know if this was like one child and a spouse, but these are the two children.
these are their two
Okay.
children. Yeah.
All right.
And so, yeah, still directly family run.
Mhm.
And actually, we're going to hear from Nadia in just a moment, because
Oh.
they had a really nice video about them producing this wine.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Okay, great.
Let's go ahead and go there.
Here we go.
Hi, I'm Nadia Zenato, and I'm pleased to introduce you to one of my favorite wines, Zenato Ripassa. My family has a long and proud history crafting this unique wine. Ever since my father Sergio created his first vintage in 1992, we have been leaders in refining and elevating the Ripassa method of winemaking. Today, it is one of our most sought-after wines. To make this Zenato icon, we start by taking the best of our Valpolicella wine and put it in contact with the dry grape skins, which we used to create our acclaimed Amarone. This contact causes a second fermentation to take place, and the result is a wine with deeper ruby red colors, soft, sweet tannins, and more intense aromas and flavors of dark fruits, coffee, and spice. This unique wine is an ideal pairing for meaty pasta dishes, stews, and roasted meats. I hope that you enjoy our wines. From my family to yours, salute.
There we go. Hold on.
Nice.
It went too far. There we go. So we'll
right.
stop this.
Stop
for a moment.
sharing. Yep.
All right.
All right. So now, any thoughts, anything you guys wanted to share before we move on to the next phase? That's kind of the background of the region, the style of wine production, which I adore. And it's truly unique in the flavors it creates. And then this particular wine, and I think how well it's made. I liked her coffee comment, you know, when I was going,
I wasn't getting it, when she said it, I was just thinking, I feel like I smell a little coffee,
right.
but
Remember when I was going Baker's Chocolate, honestly, I bounce between those two on a regular basis.
Jerry says a very drinkable wine.
Mm-hmm. It's very drinkable, but it's got a lot of character and a lot of flavors going on. It's got enough tannin to pair with a variety of meat dishes, and yet not too much. So you could go with a variety of lighter meat dishes or vegetarian dishes. It's, you know, like she said, with pasta dishes, you could go all kinds of things.
Sure.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that it has both the bright notes and the darker fruits. It's like an interesting juxtaposition in it.
Right. It's a fun combo, right? Which does give you that, you know, it can give you an idea. If you were to drink just a Valpolicella, you're going to get a lot more of that red fruit.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
It's gonna be red, spicy, floral.
Without it being the Ripassa or Ripassa.
Right.
Okay.
But they're really good pizza wines. You know, they're great. For
sure. Absolutely. Brenda said equally good with and without food to her.
Huh?
So that's great.
And you know, it's a good point, Brenda, because we're talking about an old world wine, right? And normally what I say is, look, you're going to want to nibble on something with this, or else you might not be loving it as much as you know, as you could. And but you're right, this one, the Ripassa, is that great, friendly, you know, Italian wine that can come in. It's like food, no food, it's delicious, just drink it. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that we've said about Old World in the past is they make their wines to be, for the most part, if you generalize, to be consumed with food.
Right.
Whereas New World wines are made more because they know people just, or I guess Americans like to just drink without food too. We don't have 6-hour meals, so it's a different thing. But this one, I mean, we're not having it with food, and I'm enjoying it very much. So Jerry's having some with dark chocolate. It makes total sense. Yeah, that would be good.
We did a baked chicken, but we had a like eggplant, we had cherry tomatoes, kind of made a sauce with that, some I don't know, red pepper. So it was like there's like a tiny bit of a kick to it, not a lot of garlic and onion, stuff like that. I think the wine is really good, but I really think it pops with that food. I think especially the sweetness from the cherry tomatoes and the acidity from that really helps. Because I think the coffee was a great call, because I was like, this is a little bitter. You get a lot of those baking spices, some dark fruit. And then when you pair it with a tomato sauce, I was like, actually, this is like really, I think really helps a lot of those flavors like pop, you know?
I agree, but to Brenda's point, I really liked it before we started eating. And then when we started eating, I still liked it. It was just, to me, I got like more red fruit from it after we started eating. So it was just like slightly different, but still good.
Yeah, that could have been playing on that, those tomatoes. So you're doing acid to acid and they just jumped on top of each other. Whereas if you had this with, say, a filet mignon, which I think it could hold up to, you'd probably get a whole different experience on this guy, where the darker flavors in that balsamiciness would work with the meat and the fats. And then you'd be like, wow, it's like a different wine tonight.
That's so interesting. It's like the chemistry of the interactions between the food and the wine.
Yeah, pairings are fun. All right, so
wait, any other questions, comments, pairings that you would like to share before we talk about ratings? Nope.
All right.
Okay. Oh, wait, here we go.
We actually did a chicken parmesan. It went really well with it, with the sauce and the meat.
Nice. Excellent. Good.
Well, I was thinking about this. This would work well with my lasagna then, right?
Oh yeah, it would be very good
Okay.
with your lasagna.
Okay.
Absolutely. And doing it where if you were to do a combination of meat sauce and eggplant
Mhm.
at the same time, oh,
I mean,
stellar.
don't normally do that in it, but yeah, we could do that.
Yeah,
That would work.
Good play. That'd be fun.
We had a spicy chili tonight, accompanied by unusual side of black beans with hot peppers and onions and garlic. Very tasty and good with the wine.
Oh, it
Oh,
works
great.
well with it. That's
Well,
good to hear.
and look at the spread of what we're talking about here, which
Yeah.
speaks into that flexibility on this wine, right? That's fun. I kind of like that. So one thing, I kind of ran through the appassimento method and the ripasso. Just want to make sure everyone good, no questions on those things. As I ran down there, I wasn't sure if I kind of blazed through it because, you know, I know it already and I went in there, so I wanted to make sure I didn't just go too quickly on that.
The
Like,
visuals helped a lot, like to
Right.
be able to see it laid out like that.
okay. I really like the visual that had like the drying racks
Yes.
to kind of really, you're like, oh, okay, that's how they do this, right? But
What was the place that, gosh, it's maybe a year and a half ago now, that didn't they spread the grapes out on like tables outside and let them sit in the sun?
It's funny you bring that up. So I was
Okay.
going to mention, we've had one other appassimento wine in the wine group in the
Mhm.
past. It was a South American that was using the same method, which is very unusual.
Mhm.
And they were flat out using an Amarone style. It
Mhm.
wasn't a Ripassa. It was dried grapes. So it was an appassimento, full on South American red blend.
Okay,
When it was by Renaissance, which was fantastic. It's called Millamore.
okay, and in my head, I had that it was a Spanish wine, but it's because it's South American, so
Right.
it's Spanish speaking.
Right. Well, it broke my heart today because I found out that I don't think it's available anymore in the state of Florida.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no. So we bought several bottles of this
Oh, there you go.
explicitly because I loved it so much.
Before you started talking, Chris was like, hold on, I need to run and go get a wine.
You're right.
Because with Elizabeth, when you asked that, I was like, oh, that's the Millamore. Let me go grab that real quick because we still have
Two?
I want to say two, but I hope two of this left. And I was like, oh, it's like the Millamore. Because that's one of my favorite ones we've done.
I love the Millamore.
But we can't
Yeah.
get it anymore.
No, they're no longer with the distributor I used before. They're with a tiny distributor, and their listing didn't include the Millamore. It just had their regular Malbec, which it's a good Malbec,
Mhm.
but that Millamore was the thing. That was the standout to me.
You might have
I
to
don't know.
ask the distributor if it's possible.
Yeah, I'll have to, because I really did like the
Mhm.
Millamore. So, and there's no other one that I've had with anyone else using the appassimento method outside of, you know, that I've seen with my options. So if you want to do something crazy strong, they could do it in Australia with the Shiraz, and I don't even know what that would become.
Well, and then Brenda said, did they do it with a white one too?
Yes, that was Italian. That was Veneto. That was a white that we drank. That was, it was from the same winemakers
Mhm.
that did the 11-minute rosé. Do you guys remember that one? I know
Okay.
Linda does.
That one.
Mhm. So, those guys there, it was their Garganiga,
Mhm.
was the grape, and they
Okay.
use the appassimento method, and because they're from
Okay.
Veneto where they're making it, so.
That's good memory. I did not remember that.
It makes me so happy. All right.
All right, so let's talk about ratings.
All right, rating. So this wonderful wine has some very high ratings to live up to,
Mhm.
right? Doesn't mean we have to agree with it, but it's a great starting point for a discussion.
Mhm.
So we've got 93 and 92 points. So they're putting it into the outstanding category. When you look at that and you think about, factor in, starting with how much did you enjoy the wine, but then factor in what the wine is, where it's from, the price point, and how it stacks up against other Ripassas, right? So all that matters. That's kind of and I understand that you might say, well, I don't have all the pieces of that puzzle, which is fine. Just, just go with what you feel in there.
Part of what I always think is, am I getting complex flavors from it? Am I getting different things from it? Or is it one dimensional?
I like that. Yeah. And to me, that's one of my most important evaluating
Mhm.
points too, is were we able to have a discussion about multiple facets of this wine? Were we talking about multiple different flavors and, in scents and, the sensory and how we could play with this wine with food? Did it start a discussion, or was it like, that's a nice red?
Right,
right?
right.
So
Mhm. So based on that,
based on that,
we've got very good from an 85 to 89, outstanding from 90 to 94, and classic from
And
95
95
to
and above.
100.
yep. Like I say, the good categories used infrequently, but like Elizabeth has pointed out very correctly, anyone who's gotten that probably didn't get it because they knew ahead of time, like these winemakers know what they have, right? So
Right.
they didn't submit it because you pay to have these things
Right.
evaluated. So if you know you've got an 82-point wine, you don't submit it, you just go sell it,
Right, the ratings are skewed
They're
high
skewed high.
because not every wine is rated. If every wine were rated, then we would expect to see more of a bell curve.
Right.
But it's skewed to the high side because they only submit it if they think they have a good wine that
Right.
will get a good rating.
Which is interesting because it skews the numbers,
Mhm.
but it doesn't because it's like the self-evaluation takes the low ones out.
True.
You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't mean they don't earn that 90 or 90 plus.
No, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that they don't earn it. It just means that we have ratings that are, for the most part, we're only seeing like, let's say 87 and above. We're not
Right.
seeing the others. Nobody's gonna throw a 50 on their bottle and say, hey,
Right.
look,
That's
I
right.
got a 50.
Hey, we got a solid mediocre on this guy, 78.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, because you're one, you shouldn't be, if you know anything about wine, you shouldn't be submitting something that would earn a 50. But also, if you got something that you didn't like the rating, you're also not advertising it. But I don't know if that means that like Wine Spectator and things wouldn't say, hey, we rated this.
I don't
Oh,
know how
well,
that
or-
works. I don't
yeah.
know that part. That's an interesting question.
Okay, so let me stop the share
Okay.
and go ahead and throw your scores in the chat box, which some people have started doing. Perfect. You knew what was coming. All right, let's see. Diane, we'll come back to that in a moment. We'll talk about the featured wines on Sunday in just a moment.
Okay.
Okay, so solids 92, Robin and Chris, Laura a 90, John a 91, Linda a 92.
Alright.
And then Jerry, solid 92, Chris 91, Cheryl 90, Brenda 93,
Nice.
Diane 92, and then we have 89 from Paul and 90 from Linda. So I would see certainly our mode, which is the one that occurred the most, was the 92.
Oh, there's a 92 from Deb.
Oh, 92. I was looking in the chat. I'm like, I don't see the Deb. Yes.
Because she's on her iPad, so it'd be a pain to
Okay.
type. Yeah.
Okay, and then Chris said that this wine grew on him over the last hour or so. Food helps it, but it also opened up and expressed itself nicely. Yeah, I was going to give it a 92 plus, so I'd say a 92.5.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you're just straddling the ratings from the from
Oh, I am. I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
know you didn't.
because I kept thinking 92, 93, 92, 93, but I didn't even think about the fact that that's
Right.
what they, yeah.
Beautiful. Well, that is a wine that has been well enjoyed.
Mhm.
That's what I care about. So that's pretty.
So do you want to say what is for next week then? And then we'll talk about what wines are featured on Sunday?
Yes. So let's thank our sources.
Okay,
All right. Always got to thank the sources.
that's right.
So generously sharing their info online, they deserve the credit, right? Wine Folly, always amazing resources for wine. 750.com, Wikipedia, winetourism.com, wine.com, Tenzing Wine and Spirits. A lot of these were pictures but a lot of information too. Fernando Betas, MS. I don't know if he's a master's or anyway, but anyway, he had a great map that we used. BK Wine, Forbes, Veneto, Inside, and Decanter.
This may be our longest source page ever.
Oh, actually, I think there was an Australian one that went down like 2 or 3.
Oh, really? Okay.
I remember looking back on it, I thought, wow, that was a lot of sources, but it is one of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so next week.
All right. So next week is nothing. It's off. It's Thanksgiving, everybody. So next week we have I'm calling it the Wines I'm Thankful For wine tasting next Sunday.
Is that what you're calling it?
Yes.
Because you had me put on the website, winning Thanksgiving.
Winning Thanksgiving is also Winning
Okay.
Thanksgiving Wines I'm Thankful For. I don't care. Winning Thanksgiving wine tasting is this Sunday in the store,
Okay.
starting at 7:30. So on the 20th, 7:30. I couldn't resist certain wines, so we have 10 wines this time.
Okay,
We have a
wow.
lot of wine. Beautiful food pairings. I hope you guys will all join us. They're all Thanksgiving compatible, but they also gave me an excuse to work with some varietals that, you know, everyone wants to come to drink the cab, right? Every time they always want to drink the cab. There's no cab in this because that is not a traditionally compatible Thanksgiving wine. So we're doing some beautiful Pinots. We are going to do a couple of different sparklings, a red sparkling being one of them.
Okay,
All right. Chablis and Carignan.
and 10 wines, wow.
Yes. We're going to do Beaujolais
Mhm.
and a really nice Merlot, which is about the biggest red you can do and still kind of work it out on Thanksgiving.
And just a reminder that we do close at 7. Everybody's out, we set everything up, we open at 7:30 for the tasting.
Right. And that's when
Mhm.
come on in. We'll
Yeah.
get you set at your table. So anyway, that's what we're doing. Well, we're doing that on Sunday. We've got Thanksgiving Thursday with Tuesday in between, and we're running the wine sales next week as well.
Right, it's
It
just-
just was going to be
too
too
much.
much. So
Yeah, so we're skipping next week virtually, but we'll be in person on Sunday and then we'll be back following week.
yep, and we'll be back
Yep.
and get into our December run
Mhm.
of super special wine tastings on Tuesdays, right? So, mhm.
And then I did want to note that Consuelo was another 92, so she added to
Oh,
the
good.
board there. And then Linda and Paul opened theirs just before the call, so they're looking forward to an evolution during the after call.
Mhm.
And then Robin said they opened theirs about 7:30 and they think the time helped. They liked it at
Yeah.
the start, but very tasty now.
Yeah, I opened ours at 7:30 as well.
Mhm,
Yeah, so,
yeah.
and I like where it is.
Mhm.
Somehow I just wanted to be a smart ass because it was Paul and Linda. I was like, the evolution becomes an amphibian in about an hour and a half.
We were dealing with children issues.
Ah. Well,
Okay.
let's toast. You need a
I
refill.
do, I need.
Let's toast this one out. We'll stop the recording and we can have the after party discussions,
Awesome.
including children discussions. For things.
Discussions,
All right.
yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us this
Cheers,
week.
everyone.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.